I think we all have to go through trials and tribulations in life to be able to teach others and speak about them, right? Otherwise, you don't have that depth of experience. And so many of our dreams are unrealized because we haven't taken these steps. How do we connect to our intuitive mind, right? I think that's the ancient mystery that everybody wants the answer to.
Welcome to another episode of the Dope Designer Club, where we talk about creativity, entrepreneurship, and all kinds of fun topics. Today, my beautiful guest is Kelly Browne. She's a friend of mine. She's beautiful inside and out.
Oh, thank you.
And she's back. She was my first guest when we first started filming these podcasts. She was very gracious to immediately agree.
Of course, absolutely.
And we sat here on this couch. This window was not here. And you were so fabulous.
Thank you.
And Kelly is a writer. She is my personal oracle. And it's so great to have her here again. So Kelly, welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's always my pleasure. Always.
So back in last year, I feel like this was over a year and a half ago, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
You came and we talked about forgiveness, your fabulous book that I love, and that has taught me a lot about life and myself. Back then, we talked about this, and I think on the horizon was this new project about intuition.
Yes.
And now you're sort of in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk about intuition today.
Absolutely.
So walk us through a little bit with your journey with intuition. Like for me, I feel like you're somebody that has definitely influenced me personally to think about that and kind of implement that in my own life. And be a little bit more cognizant of that whole dimension. But
Sure.
Tell us, what does it mean to you, and how did you get into it?
Sure. So, so many things happen in the journey of our lives. So many things. And I think that when I sat down to write this book, I had gone through some very, very traumatic things. And I realized that the one thing that I had counted on to get me through was intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could either be, all right, so let's go back to what intuition is. So I believe that our intuition is like our built-in navigation system. If you picture the Wi-Fi symbol on your computer, and you've got an open fan, and it's got little lines on it. Those little lines are like energy. It looks like a little receiving. Does that make sense? So
it looks like it's emanating something.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Or receiving.
Right. So picture that for just a moment, like here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, you're not just immediately a clairvoyant or immediately a medium. This is our personal navigation system that we were born with and that our ancestors relied on to survive, right? So, there's so much to talk about here. I don't even know where to start. So if you go back to the fact that we had to rely on a certain, something bigger than ourselves, God,
mm-hmm.
or the elements or things like that. And then along the way, we had artificial intelligence, we had digital technology start taking the place of all of these things.
Or machines even.
Exactly. So you no longer have to, look for water and tap the ground. You now just go into the kitchen and you turn on the water.
Mm-hmm.
So how did we get there? How did we stop using that intuition? So going back to what it looks like in our mind, right? And we talked for a second about creative problem solving and how when we need to solve a problem, we go up in our mind and we start scanning. Oh, what's the answer? What's the answer? Or taking an exam in school, you put your thinking cap on and you start scanning for the answer, scanning for the answer. And all of a sudden there's like this eureka moment. Oh my gosh, that's what it is. So that's like kind of like an overall, but taking it to the next level, we're all made of energy. And I know you read in the beginning of the book I'm writing right now, energy can't be created or destroyed. No matter what religion you believe in, if you're Catholic or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever it is, we are all made of energy. So when our soul leaves the body, this is what I believe, but when our soul leaves the body, that energy simply takes on another form. So if you think about it like that, we're all part of this electricity, this spiritual electricity. So imagine standing at the edge of the ocean and dropping in a pebble, throwing a stone, and you see those waves moving. Our intuition and that spiritual electricity is very similar because you're putting out electromagnetic waves into the universe, kind of like a radio that's scanning for a signal. And you're scanning and scanning, and suddenly you pick up the signal and you connect to it. So I believe that there is like divine wisdom in the universe that we connect to. So we just have to start becoming aware of how we connect, which we can talk about today if you'd like. Yeah.
So, I mean, you said a lot of things there.
Yes.
You said a lot of things.
Yes.
One of the things I think that you said, which I think resonates with me, because I feel like that I am very intuitive.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of part of my DNA. And I think, but I think in talking to you over the years, I think you've definitely encouraged me to like always like listen to kind of that inner voice,
that
to
whisper,
whisper. Like sometimes I think we tend to neglect or push to the side or ignore some of these like we can call them red flags or green flags. And I think you're definitely somebody that has taught me to be more in tune with those feelings and thoughts. And what I got out of, like, one of the things that I got out of what you just said, is how can actually we, one of the ways, I guess, in tapping into this is kind of going inward. And I think that's like a very beautiful and important message, I think, that you're giving us. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So how do we connect to our intuitive mind, right? I think that's the ancient mystery that everybody wants the answer to. How do we do it? So if as I was just talking about, like, if we have this understanding that we're all born with it, we've just forgotten how to use it because we haven't had to rely on it because of digital technology, right?
Or just like, I think, like conditioning, like, when you go to school, they don't teach you like, oh, wait a second, like, listen to yourself. They teach you like, hey, here's a book, here's some information.
Yes.
Why don't you just like memorize this and then regurgitate it back to us so that we understand. And I think, in general, society, not just education, like society, is not something that like kind of promotes us, being intuitive. But I think like maybe our ancestors, like the hunters and gatherers, how you said, like they had to like really kind of like listen and be present like in their environment, like both for danger, but also opportunity and beauty that is nature,
So exactly. There is a wonderful book by Gavin de Becker that is like law enforcement's #1 read called The Gift of Fear. And it is exactly that. It is that gift of fear, of being afraid. Oh my gosh, I don't feel right about a person or situation, or I have a bad feeling. I have a bad feeling. And then you go back and you say, oh my gosh, I knew. Oh my gosh, why didn't I listen? Why didn't I pay attention to those red flags? And, so how do we get there? How do we pay attention? How do we recognize it in our physical body? So that is what happened to me. I always knew that I was, I'm very sensitive. I'm very emotional. I'm like a disaster, right? Things affect
Me
me
too.
deeply. Yeah, but I think that is kind of
But you
a
seem
wonderful
also
thing.
like very centered. Like, I
Well,
think like my impression of you is like somebody who's like very centered.
yes, but I think we all have to go through trials and tribulations in life to be able to teach others and speak about them, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, you don't have that depth of experience. But so if you go back, so in this moment, go back to that moment right now, like while you're watching this, and think about, okay, how did I feel in that moment when I sensed fear, or I sensed danger, or I knew somebody was lying to me? And, how did it feel? Did I feel sick to my stomach? Did I feel uncomfortable? Did I hear something like, don't forget your shirt, or don't forget your keys, or don't go that way, go this way?
Mm.
So, you hear quotes from Steven Spielberg or Oprah Winfrey or Joseph Campbell, Steve Jobs talking about the whispers in the ear. So that is something
So it's
that
not just voices of like
no, but it,
the
but it, but
deranged
it, but
people
it
here.
could be,
Yeah.
but it could be, and people talk
Ah.
about, I just heard it, and so that is what happened to me. I
Mm.
just heard like, it's broken, or this or that, or whatever it was. That is what happened to me. I saw an image, or I heard, like I can only call divine intervention. And for example, I kept seeing a spider on my daughter's wall when she was very little, and I disregarded it because I just gotten her into bed, and I kept seeing it, and I thought, and I'm having a conversation like, oh my God, if I go in there, then I'm going to wake her up. And so finally I went in there, and by God, there was a spider on the wall that was so huge, and I was shook.
Mhm.
Well, after that, a series of catastrophic events happened around me, and I started actively using my intuition, not realizing what I was doing.
So wait, let's just kind of go back there. So you saw a spider without being in the room.
I was in the other room.
You were in the
Yeah.
other room, and
Mhm.
this image like just popped into your mind without ever walking into the room. And then
In
sure
real
enough,
time. Right.
And sure enough, when you walked into the room, that's what you saw.
That's what I saw on the wall. And I completely freaked out because.
But in some ways, like you got there in time.
Oh, yes,
because
but the bigger, right, but the bigger thing was oh my gosh, I have to pay attention to this. I can no longer, not pay attention. So
Right.
I kind of felt like I was being
It was like a
prepared for
wake-up
things
call.
that were happening, that were going to happen, that I, ended up intervening and helping save people's lives. And so, I'm so grateful for that. So, but anyway, so, it's very important to pay attention if you want to develop your intuition. All right. You have to immediately start focusing on, how did it feel in my body when I experienced those things, right? And to get yourself centered, take deep breaths, try to ground yourself so that you can start practicing it every day, because intuition is a muscle in our body, right? Again, like, did you see images in your third eye, which is like the space between your temples or your ears? Did you hear something in your ear? Did you smell something? There's all sight, sound, smell, taste, all the clairs.
Yeah.
And intuition is the most important of all because it incorporates all of these things. So that is my one key takeaway is pay attention. How did you feel? How did it look? And start practicing that every day. There's a famous director that talked about when he was doing something monotonous, driving down the 101 freeway in Los Angeles, how he suddenly got an idea that helped him, with the ending of his film. And it was doing something monotonous,
Because he
Great.
zoned out and was probably in that semi-hypnotic state.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. So great spiritual teachers talk about walking in nature. You know,
Yeah.
there is the Japanese art of forest bathing where people will
I love
walk
that.
into, yeah, will walk
Japanese culture is full of that. I want
Yeah.
to talk about one thing that you mentioned, actually two. You know, being in our bodies and what our body is telling us. I think, you know, with technology, with phones and screens, like I think a lot of times, like we're so out of our bodies and out of ourselves, and you know, social media, and we're like bombarded with like all this information. And you know, I for one sit in front of a desk a lot, and I work on a computer, which is like a part of my job as an architect. But you and I both do yoga, and I think that, you know, what needs to happen too, like with this whole intuition thing, it is a part of our body. And like, you know, in my own kind of journey and like what I've learned through like, you know, studying psychology and having a lot of therapy and all these things is, you know, this idea that, you know, we have our brain to process information, but a lot of this intuitive stuff actually happens in our gut and our heart. And there's a lot of like nerves that actually are in this region versus, you know, here. And you know, like that gut feeling.
Yes.
The gut feeling.
Yes.
You know,
the gift of fear, right?
Your stomach is
Yeah.
actually giving you that feeling. It's a thought. It's also like a thought, but not like a thought that processes information, but like a thought that maybe processes feelings.
Right. And so this is why it's so important that you start paying attention to your physical body, because there can be so much static interference that is interfering with your signal of connection, of being centered, of being grounded. And so doing things like yoga can help release that energy from your body. So let's say you're upset about something and you come to me and you're like, Kelly, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so upset. You know, I immediately always try to say, okay, like take a minute, take some deep breaths, ground yourself, and ask yourself, what is really bothering me? What is really, you know, causing me to be upset? Do I feel jealous? Do I feel threatened? Do I feel ignored? You know, these things go across our lives from business to pleasure, you know, and there's many people we encounter in our lives that can say something unkind and we're suddenly taking it on and it doesn't even belong to us.
Right.
So when we get back to that physical body, let's say in yoga, right, and you have that practice of releasing energy that doesn't belong to you, right? Washing your body of things that don't serve you, that you're holding on to. Because, you know, we're both very sensitive, right? And we may hold on to an unkind comment and think about it and think about it. And it has nothing to do with us.
Right.
But here we are ruminating about it. And, you know, so if we can learn to, you know, to increase our intuition by letting these things go, letting these things go that don't serve us. Right. And
well, that's also forgiveness, right? Like,
yes.
Going back to your other book.
Yes. You know, that is why this book,
it's amazing.
Forgiveness.
It's amazing book.
Thank you so much, because I didn't just, you know, I'm not a doctor. I'm an ordinary girl from the Valley. I'm a Valley girl. And
by the way, I love that you say that. I think there's like I'm also like, we are in the Valley.
Yeah,
I love the Valley.
I love the Valley too.
And you've said it more than once, and I love it every time you say it.
But it's true. like I am not special. I'm just
special.
A girl. Thank you.
I'm
but
just a girl.
Just a girl. But it's true. Like, I wrote this book from the true experiences of what happened to me, what I learned, and how I could help get through a catastrophic situation,
right?
And find forgiveness.
I love that.
Forgiveness is such a loaded thing, because not everybody in your life do you feel is like worthy of forgiveness.
Right.
But you have to make peace with it for yourself.
Right.
Because it's like a stone. In the book I talk about carrying the stone.
That's a huge lesson for me, because I've been in like very kind of weird situations and relationships, and I think that taught me a lot. Definitely. I think you wrote it like how you said, like, I'm not like this, expert or anything, but like, I think you are, because, you wrote it from a deep sense of knowing,
Yes.
Which is it's very related to intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm reading this book, Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Right.
And I think that's what we all have. It's innate to us. It's something that's so primal. And I think intuition is as well.
100%, because it's our survival instinct.
Yeah.
It is what we rely on.
Mm-hmm.
When you are in the dark night of the soul and you are in the emergency room, or you are faced with something insurmountable that you don't think you can get through, how often do we suddenly start praying or asking for divine intervention?
Like when somebody is sick, we pray.
Please,
we pray
right,
like when things are out of our control.
Yes,
we pray.
We do. I don't care who you are.
Even if you're not religious, you'll be like, oh, please let me just pass that exam. Like I did that when I was doing my licensing exam. Like just this one, like even if you prepare, but when something is out of your control, you go somewhere else.
Right. No matter who you are or what you do, and you have that feeling when you begin to pray of like this energy going up and reaching to something higher.
Yeah.
And that is so important across our lives, especially in business when we're dealing with all kinds of personalities and agendas and things like that. And, in relationships, like if we are not connected to a good source, or we are not acting in a loving way, right? If all of our actions are good, then and we're not affecting other people in a negative way in order to cause harm, then we will always be positive attracts positive and negative attracts negative. Then all those good things will come to us. So it's like that cycle of electromagnetic energy, right? So if you walk into a room and you feel like you're the most fabulous, and like the Marilyn Monroe Effect, it's like all over TikTok.
Here she is.
Well, no, but
I mean, you look like her.
Thank you. But like, it's that Marilyn effect of being a light, walking into the room and feeling like you're beautiful and you've got star quality and you've got this magnetic energy that everybody loves you.
I love that. That's a huge thing for everybody. I think, especially during COVID and in general, a lot of people are, I think, depressed and down, and like their energy is sort of like deflated.
Right.
And I think it's like so important, what you said, like to just like feel like you're a star,
Right. And then if you walked into the room and you had your head down and like no one's going to talk to you. It's like there's that famous adage, laugh and the world laughs with you, and you cry alone. Everybody wants to
no one wants to be with like a downer.
Everybody wants to be with that beacon of light. And so like everyone watching, like try it as an exercise. Try it as, walk into a store.
Like lift yourself
and sparkle.
Up. You have that power.
Yeah, sparkle.
I want to say something to everybody. Like I've noticed something about you. Sometimes Kelly and I hang out a lot. Actually, we'll go out, and I tend to like sometimes be like when I'm not interested in someone, like I shut down, I'll just like walk away unintentionally. But Kelly is somebody who's like so considerate and really pauses to recognize people and acknowledge people with so much like generosity and kindness. And this is why people gravitate toward her. Like we would go somewhere and like people wouldn't like really approach me or talk to me, but like Kelly talks to like waiters and random passerbyers. And I think that's like such a wonderful quality. And I think you actually are that beacon of light.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you are. And I think every time I see you, I feel it. And it's so uplifting and
Thank you.
inspiring.
Thank you.
Yes. Kelly has been holding this pen, and we were just talking about how, you know, it's different when you hold a pen. Like it definitely changes something in your mind.
Right,
a
because
little
it's
bit.
like I'm getting to, like I'm waiting for the message.
Yeah,
the
you're
information to come in. Right.
Good. So, you know, during the break, we talked a little bit about there's 5 steps in
Intuition 101.
Intuition 101. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, tell
Yes.
us.
Okay. So we talked before about, recognizing intuition in the body. So the first thing you want to do, okay, let me just go back. The 5 steps are: you open, focus, incubate, clarity, and action.
Mhm.
All right. So imagine the Wi-Fi signal.
Mhm.
You want to open yourself up,
Mhm.
right? As if you're putting on your thinking cap.
Mhm.
You want to focus on the problem. All right. I need to figure out this idea that I'm working on for this campaign. And so you just start focusing on all the things. You want to write down all the possible solutions for this problem. And then you want to walk away from it. You want to take a walk. You want to go take a shower. You want to drive to the store. Just let it roll. Let it incubate. Sometimes it could take a minute. It could take an hour. It could take a week. It could take
2 years.
weeks. Yes.
That's how long it took me to figure out this podcast.
But seriously, the cure for some things, take many, many minds focused on the same thing. And then all of a sudden, it's called the eureka effect or the aha moment. And all of a sudden you get an idea. It may be a piece of the puzzle. It may be the answer. It may be someone's name, but it's something that you have to pay attention to.
Maybe it's also like something that you haven't anticipated.
Yes.
Like it's not necessarily the answer you wanted when you started, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it also may be a different angle of looking at something. Sometimes we will talk to our friends and we'll get their input and we'll get their perspective. So then after you have the information, what do you do? Do you do nothing? Do you sit on it, or do you take action? So I think that is like one of the most important things, is that we have all these dreams come into our minds. We have dreams, daydreams. We have evening dreams. At night. We have dreams of being, an actor or an actress or a writer or whatever it is. And so many of our dreams are unrealized because we haven't taken these steps. We haven't worked on our intuition. We haven't connected to like all this divine wisdom in the world. And
we're just sort of circulating.
Yeah.
I guess I think that's a great lesson, to take action, because otherwise, and actually intuition itself, I think it calls us to our purpose, because otherwise you're just going to your job, you're just circulating, you're just sort of going through the actions, maybe even robotically.
Right. And I think that there's another, famous adage that's, act as if you're this, or or fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. So, in Hollywood, when you want to be a producer, you just do it. You just go out there, and you can go to film school. You can, take all the classes, but it really takes that person with 10% talent and 90% audacity that's banging on every door to say, read my script, which is, what happened with all of my books. If I didn't take the action to write down what I heard, and I didn't aggressively go, and pound on doors and look for an agent and go to publishers and be denied and keep saying, I know that there's something there.
Yeah.
So
just doing it,
right. Taking that action to follow it through is really important. Otherwise, why do we have these dreams of inspiration?
Yeah. It's almost like a calling. Yeah. It's calling to us.
Right.
To do these things. I love that. one thing about dreams, like I think dreams are such an important aspect of this, and I think also symbols. I think it goes back to like maybe even the Jungian like archetypes and like these molds of like bigger messages that we're like filling.
Hmm.
Um, it's it all comes together, I think, when you think about it, because you're kind of tapping into this bigger consciousness,
Right.
right? Like this collective consciousness,
Hmm.
maybe. So I think that's like both spiritual, but also, and maybe we're getting a little metaphysical, which we
No,
always do.
no, but it's
But it's
absolutely true because it's whatever resonates with you, the Holy Spirit, the divine consciousness, God. We're all the angels, the saints. There's
why do
all
you think
these.
people are uncomfortable with talking about God when it's like, is it like
Yeah,
politically incorrect to talk about God, or or nature, or whatever like floats your boat, really?
right.
Like why are people? I think in our popular culture, we're a little bit like, it's almost as if we're asked to distance ourselves, to just be like these machines.
Right, right.
Do you feel that?
I I march to the beat of my own drum,
Mm,
truly. Like I cannot get, caught up in other people's thoughts, feelings, and agendas and someone trying to steer me in another direction. I've always felt a spiritual connection.
mm.
There are so many great master teachers
From any religion, really.
from and I've taken the jewels of all of them, from
Right.
Buddha to Jesus to whoever it is. There are incredible jewels of ancient wisdom, and you know what? It all comes down to love. It
Mm,
really does. If we all were kind and
mm.
generous and we're grateful for
Right.
what we have, like I
Yeah.
am so grateful for the roof over my head. I'm
Right.
so grateful that I have two beautiful girls and that I'm going to cry. Like these are the things in life that resonate, that are
Mm.
positive. Like I've never been someone that was jealous.
Me
I
neither.
I
Yeah.
was, yeah, never, never. Like I'm not jealous of material things that you can't take with you.
Mhm.
Look at the ancient Egyptians. All that is still there, thousands of years later, right? What you take with you is the memories and the fabric of your
Mm.
heart.
Oh,
The
I'm gonna cry.
But it's true.
Yeah. No, it is.
You leave behind the experiences and the time that you spent with people that made a difference in your life.
Yes.
Right?
Because yeah, what else is there?
Right.
I think there is a great wisdom in love, and you are such a wise person.
Thank
You really are. You really are. Let's talk about the book before we start bawling,
The
like
new book?
losing it. Let's talk about the new book. So last night you sent me your, you know, kind of where you are now in the process. You're
Mhm.
in the proposal stage, and there's like this outline, and I love it because like in the back of my head, I'm kind of thinking I want to write a book. I have no idea like what I want it to be about, but I love books, and I think I have a lot to say. Like I talk a lot, so why not write it out? But I think it was like such a bit of an educational moment for me. Like, what does it take
Yeah.
to like write a book, to pitch it, to publish it? Like, what is your process? Let's talk about your process a little bit.
So, everything comes with an idea, right? And God, that would make a really good book. That story, wow, what? Just like I was just talking about, you get the idea, you scan it in your mind, and you're thinking about it, and then, as I said, you're problem solving, start writing it down. So when I wrote my first thank you notebook, I started making notes. I just started writing down ideas. You could be in the shower, you could be driving, and suddenly you get this idea. Do
Mm.
you dismiss it? Do you pay attention to it? I started writing it down on little pieces of paper,
Mhm.
on the back of an envelope, on the back of my child's school calendar. And I started collecting things. I started
Mm.
paying it to, so I started vibrating, or putting out that energy into the world of paying attention to things about thank you notes, things about being grateful. And, where I am in the process of writing this new intuition book is I am not a famous medium. You know, from the things that happened in my life, I started doing readings
I feel
for
like
people.
the whole medium and psychic thing is just like an aspect, like a subcategory of intuition.
It's exactly.
And I think what you're saying is that it's available to all of us, and we all need to, without you being the psychic telling us what's going to happen in the future. You know, like I feel like that's slightly limiting it in my kind of.
Well, there's all different kinds of, a medium can, you know, can speak to people that have passed over. But what happened with me is that I had all these experiences, and I've
which
worked
are
with,
very psychic, like very
yes,
yeah.
And so I took this energy healing workshop with this woman, Barbara Savin, in Thousand Oaks, and I started reading people in class because I was touching them, and I started hearing, you know, things, and from that I started reading celebrities, and doing psychic readings and reading for. It was just became word of mouth, and so that's how that happened.
You are a psychic, actually.
Yes,
actually,
and so but it all happened because, you know, again, I'm just an ordinary girl from the San Fernando Valley. I'm a Valley girl. But I started paying attention. And so that is what this new book is about, is what I learned, how I'm a mom, like how I intervened with saving my daughter's life, both of them, and my mom, and how I did it, how it happened, the process, and how I can teach other people. Because that, I think, is the most important thing, is to teach other people. Like I had to walk the walk. Yeah. I had to go through the experience in order to become the teacher, you know, and experience some really difficult moments in my life that you don't think you're going to get through. Like if someone said, Kelly, you're going to go through all these terrible things over the next 10 years, I would have been like,
interesting. Like you have so much gratitude, but yet you had so much struggle.
Yeah, I did. But here I am with my beautiful Bronca, you know, and I've survived it all. And
you're a star.
Star. No, but like, this is really important to me. Yeah. Because if I can get this out to other people, children should be paying attention to their intuition, because intuition can save your life.
Wow.
And
in so many ways.
And, you know, children are told to be quiet. You know, that is what we learn. Yeah. You know, just follow the rules.
Children are actually more intuitive because they haven't been like
slapped. They're more open.
Slapped on the wrist too many times yet.
Right.
For kind of being in tune with themselves.
Right. And they're much more open, and they're much more in that imagination state.
Yes.
Right. So like, as artificial intelligence has totally taken over, like our intuitive intelligence is going away, right? Yeah. It's just like using a calculator, you know, and then you stop, you know, oh God, what are my times tables, you know? Yeah. And we don't want that to happen. Yeah. So especially like, you know, when we're problem solving in business or being creative, right? Creative problem solving, use your intuition, you know. You can, there's a number of things of exercises, like you can take a Epsom salt bath and imagine the salt washing your body of all, you know, heavy energy, or someone that's been unkind, or a bad relationship, or a boss that's been cruel. Imagine it all washing, 2 cups of salt in the bath. Imagine it all going down the drain.
That's what I'm going to do.
You don't have a bath? Get Epsom, you know, Dr. Beals.
Go into the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Provided
go
there's
to the
no
ocean.
Bacteria.
There is so much, you know.
Or the forest, or the forest cleansing.
Yes, forest bathing.
Bathing.
So like, you know, and release. You know, take all your troubles and and imagine it all in that stone. You can even take a Sharpie or a pen and write on a stone and say, that terrible thing that happened to me in 5th grade, or what you did to me, I'm writing here on this stone, and you have no power over me anymore. And I am throwing this over the king, and I'm throwing this into the ocean.
You can just burn it
Yes.
like on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Really.
Because that is an energy. Look at, fire and ceremony of fire goes back so many years.
Right.
We use it in all rituals. We use it in
even birthday
on a birthday
cakes.
The birthday
it's like
cake.
Wishing for something,
yes.
or letting something go. How interesting.
That's in my children's thank you notebook. A birthday cake is in the shape of a moon. And so when you put the candle on it and you blow out, and a wish is a prayer.
Yeah.
It's an intention.
Yeah.
And then you're blowing it out, and then that smoke is being carried to the ancestors, to the spirits,
to the other,
to God, to whoever you resonate with.
I like how you say like imagination and wishing. I think that's like, so intuition can warn us, but it can also open us up to like all the positive things that the universe is kind of giving us.
Yes.
Universe or our mind or whatever you want to call it. Imagination. I remember my mom, like when I was little, she always encouraged me to kind of foster my imagination. And we have a special word for it in Serbian called, you say mašta. And there's a little rhyme, moja mašta može svašta. Like my imagination can do all these things, basically.
Yes.
And I love my mom, and I think she taught me so many small things like that that are so important, actually.
Right.
But I think, this show is about creativity and entrepreneurship and all these things. And like, what a better message than to tune into our intuition for all of those things: creativity, business, relationships. It's such a overarching concept, actually, that we forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, if you go into everything in your life with that feeling of love and integrity and honesty, then how can you go wrong?
Absolutely.
And then you pull those people towards you, because your word is your honor. Abracadabra, it's like I speak it into existence, that ancient prayer, which is Hebrew, actually. I didn't know that until I did the research on the new book. But your words have weight, they have energy, they can hurt, they can heal, or they can create something magical in your life. You speak it into existence.
Right.
So again, what you think you become.
Yeah.
All of these
things.
So
wise.
The Marilyn Effect. I think I'm famous
it's Aristotle.
star.
I think it's like Aristotelian, actually.
Yeah.
So for the end of our amazing conversation, what is something that is really exciting to you? Something that excites you? It can be anything.
What is something that excites me? I think
something I'm excited about.
What excites me, I'm working on a couple new projects, which I'm really, really excited about. I'm a little scared because they're so big. But if you asked me, what's my most exciting, what would be my favorite, most exciting thing to do? I would say being under the stars and looking at the planets and the moonlight, and it makes me so emotional, because all of these things on Earth that don't matter, that we get ourselves so worked up about, and the universe is so much bigger.
Right.
There are so many more things that are more important than someone that was rude to you in the parking lot. Right. And I think that is always my go-to, is going out. Tonight, there's going to be a beautiful full moon, and those are the things, with a glass of champagne.
Ooh,
and, and maybe a fire.
Universe, but with a glass.
And maybe somebody, wonderful. But I think that bringing it back to, the ancients looked at the stars and the sky, and they're all still there.
Right.
All those stars.
We're looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
I love that. And we actually have that in common too. You invited me once to stargazing party at the Griffith Observatory, and we went there and we couldn't find parking, but But I love astronomy as
Yeah.
well, and I agree with you. It's like
Yeah.
it's inspiring, and if you have an opportunity to go outside of the city,
Or come with
even
me.
better, or go with
Yeah.
Kelly.
Yeah.
What a wonderful way to get inspired.
Yeah, it really is because we are all made of stardust.
Wow,
We are.
wow, you're you're just so awesome, Kelly. Like,
But it's true. We are.
we are.
And
Yeah.
we have to remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much
Up you.
for gracing us
Of course.
with your presence and your
Thank you.
wisdom. You're beautiful.
Oh,
I love
thank
you.
you. I love you. Aw, thank you, Samantha. You're the best. You're the best.
Yay.